Have you heard about the groundbreaking scientific research coming out of Southwest Florida? Scientists are calling it the Margaritaville effect. It goes a little something like this. A Jimmy Buffett fan over the age of 65 plus retirement equals relocating to Florida. That's just pure science. That has been the normal trend in America for some time now, at least until a few years ago. Now, people of all ages are looking to the Sunshine State to call their home. Since 2020, Florida has grown by a whopping 700,000 residents. The 1.9% growth in population makes Florida the fastest growing state in the entire country. Many of those new arrivals have chosen Tampa as their place to settle. But before you decide to join the crowd in Tampa, we broadcast this following warning. Never forget Tom Brady! The legendary quarterback had it all in New England, but lost it all once he came to Tampa. The man with the lingerie supermodel wife until she divorced him 2 years after moving to Tampa. Never forget Tom Brady. Here are the 7 reasons why you shouldn't move to Tampa. Number 1, sinkholes. You've heard of Tornado Alley. You know about hurricane season. More on that later. But did you know there is such thing as Sinkhole Alley? That's right. Tampa and the surrounding suburbs are at the heart of Sinkhole Alley. According to the Florida Geological Survey, more than 400 sinkholes are reported each year in the Tampa area and growing. What the heck is a sinkhole? Well, without getting too scientific, it's a hole that suddenly opens up in the Earth's crust, aka the damn Earth tries to swallow you up. Sinkholes might sound crazy, but they are pretty serious when they can happen in your backyard. The U.S. Geological Service estimates that sinkhole damages average at least 300 million a year, and Florida leads the nation in said sinkhole damage, reporting some of the most shocking incidents in recent years. Number 2, the beaches. Yeah, beaches. Hear us out. Open Google Maps to find Tampa, and you'll notice the city of Florida's Gulf Coast is pretty much surrounded by water. Not the ocean or Gulf of Mexico, however, but the great expanse of Tampa Bay. Still, people are often surprised to learn there isn't an actual Gulf of Mexico beach in Tampa itself. For that, you'll need to cross Tampa Bay from the city or drive around it to the south or north for a half hour or longer to get to some of the best beaches near Tampa. All of the great beaches you hear about are outside of Tampa. If you are thinking about moving to Tampa to become a beach bum, you are in for a rude awakening. And here's the real kicker. Even if you are willing to drive to the best beaches, you may not be able to get in the water. Ever hear of something called red algae? Red algae is a toxic microorganism that has been wreaking havoc on the coast of Southwest Florida. Florida's Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission warns people to not swim in or around red tide waters over the possibility of skin irritation, rashes, and burning, and sore eyes. Oh my goodness, sore eyes? I didn't even know that was a thing. People with asthma or lung disease should avoid beaches affected by toxic algae. Sounds fun! I guess you could always swim in the shark-infested, polluted waters of the bay. Number 3, the lack of public transportation. Dear Tampa, you are a metropolitan area of almost 3.5 million people. It's time to step up your public transportation game. A recent report ranked Tampa Bay's public transportation as the 8th worst in the country, to the surprise of nobody. The report ranked these transit systems based on accessibility and convenience, safety and reliability, and transit resources, all of which the Tampa Bay systems lack. And it's not just one report that slams Tampa's public transportation system. The city is constantly ranked at the bottom. No wonder less than 1% of Tampa residents use public transportation. It's a public transit system that barely exists. Here's what Tampa has to offer: buses and a handful of streetcars. Oh, and there's some electric scooters. But who wants to scoot around every day in a city nicknamed the lightning capital of the world? That's a hard pass. Number 4, low wages. Think you would make more take-home money in Florida without an income tax? Think again. Florida is famous for its low wages. Florida is the 3rd most populous state in the entire country, but it ranks 38th in the annual median wage. Something does not add up there. Florida's median income is $12,000 less than the national average. And if you happen to be a low-wage earner, you can kiss your social life goodbye. Florida's minimum wage is extremely low at $10 an hour, and 42% of Florida's employees make less than $15 an hour. Only 3 other states do worse than Florida in the numbers of workers making less than $15 an hour. To afford a 1-bedroom apartment in Tampa, a minimum wage worker needs to put in 93 hours of work per week. That's the equivalent of 2.3 full-time jobs. Even though Florida's minimum wage is set to increase to $15 by 2026, inflation and rising housing prices make that raise relatively insignificant. And while the state's diverse economy does offer opportunities in multiple industries, unfortunately for its residents, the majority of jobs in the state are not of the high-paying variety. A staggering 43% of the jobs in the state are low-wage earning jobs. On the flip side, 15% of the total jobs are high-income careers. Number 5, the weather. If you live in a cold weather city, you probably want to throw your device at a wall right now. But just like the beaches, hear us out for a second. When people think of Florida, they think of sunshine. It's literally called the Sunshine State. But if you look carefully, the state full of natural paradises is quickly becoming a state full of natural disasters. And these disasters are connected to the weather. Not only does Tampa experience the 2nd highest amount of thunderstorms per year, but it's also especially susceptible to hurricanes. The Tampa area has an 11% chance of feeling the impacts of a hurricane in any given year. That may sound low, but it's actually unusually high. To make matters worse, the city was built on an extremely low-lying land. Significant rainfall, as you get in a hurricane, would have colossal financial consequences. The World Bank estimates that Tampa is the 7th most vulnerable city in the entire world when it comes to the potential financial losses caused by floods. And it doesn't necessarily take a severe storm to do big damage. 1 in 9 Tampa properties could face flooding during a Category 1 storm, according to this report. 1 in 5 properties in Pinellas County, population 1 million, is at risk of flooding in a Category 1 hurricane. And if hurricanes aren't enough to scare you away, try lightning on for size. Tampa didn't name their NHL franchise the Tampa Bay Lightning for no reason. Man, what a cool name. Every year, Florida averages 10 deaths and 30 injuries just from lightning strikes, with several of these usually occurring in or near the Tampa area. Reason number 6 to not move to Tampa, Florida: the increasing violent crime rate. To borrow a phrase from a wise poet, "Mo people, mo problems." The once quiet, small urban area of Tampa is becoming a bustling metropolis. The city is adopting the problems of many large northern cities. Surprisingly, across nearly every part of the Bay Area, crime is down in almost all categories, but one very important category: violent crime. Since 2014, Tampa's homicide rate has been about 50% higher than the state and national averages. The number of homicides in Tampa in 2020, which was 41, was the highest figure since tying that number in 2003. And the 48 homicides in 2021 were the most since 1994. But it's not just homicides. From 2021 to 22, there was a 13.7% increase in reported sexual assaults. The number of aggravated assaults in Tampa also skyrocketed from just under 1,200 in 2019 to 1,714 in 2021. While all of America experienced a rise in violent crime during the pandemic, Tampa's violent crime rate is not returning to pre-pandemic levels. Tampa police believe the surge in violent crime, especially gun violence, has to do with the population increase. The Tampa Police Department said there was an 18.9% increase in the number of guns taken off of the streets in 2022. So that either means the police did an extraordinarily good job in 2022, or more likely, there are just more guns on the street to begin with. Tampa residents feel like it's the latter of the two. Number 7, and our last great reason to not move to Tampa, Florida, bugs. They're the menace at every cookout. The uninvited guest who arrives early and refuses to leave. We're talking, of course, about mosquitoes. The flying bloodsuckers whose bites are as annoying as they are itchy. Tampa's climate makes the city the equivalent of mosquito heaven. The city's warm temperature and the massive amount of rainfall are the literal perfect and ideal conditions for mosquitoes to thrive in. And thanks to climate change, the mosquito season is getting longer. The mosquito season in Tampa is now 322 days long. Think of how many days are in a year. If you do the quick math, that's pretty much the entire year. You better buy a lot of bug spray. So, from sinkholes to bugs, that was 7 reasons why you should not move to Tampa. Our verdict: stay away from Tampa. Unless, of course, you enjoy having your crappy public bus fall into a sinkhole on the way back from your hour-long ride to swim in the toxic ocean. Oh, and one last thing. Never forget Tom Brady.